Hey everyone, welcome back to CraterMania. I'm your host, Crater. So first of all, this is a little new format that I'm trying this week. Last week on the first week that I was doing the 500 movies in 2025, um, I did it all pre-recorded, and there was a lot of time in recording it and then editing it and just putting it all together, trying to make it look good and presentable for you guys to watch. And then, I watched it back and I was like, that looks great and everything, but like, I'm not here to win any kind of awards for YouTube for the quality of my videos or anything. I don't have anything fancy or flashy with my videos or intros or anything like that. Maybe one day if I figure this stuff out a little bit more, and it'll get better over time. But anybody that's watching this right now or watched last week's video, um, thank you. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate you just taking the time to check everything out that I'm doing on this channel. Right now, like the main focus is the 500 movies in 2025, and it's going pretty smoothly so far. And I wanted to try this live stream stuff out to try to see if this works a little bit better for me. Um, Now, I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. If anybody that watched last week's video uh, and you liked what you seen what I did with that video, and then after you watch this live stream, maybe put in the comments which you guys like better. If you like just like the pre-recorded stuff, or if you like the live streams, to where I can communicate with you guys at the time I'm doing the stream. Because right now, I mean, I got a couple people in the chat. I see Russell, that's usually over on Evil Dead Chick. Dana's channel is in the chat. Thank you for being here, Russell. Um, Oh, my buddy Foz Rotten is in the house here, checking us out on week two of the 500 movies in 2025. I really appreciate you guys being here. Um, and like I said, over time, I hope this can evolve and I can you know, progress this channel by learning more things about, because I've been toying around with StreamYard all day, trying to figure it out, see if there's anything that I can learn from it to make things better. It looks like right now I'm on like the free version of StreamYard, so I think I'm going to maybe eventually upgrade that so I can have a little bit more features to play around with if I continue to do these live streams. Um, Also, before I get into the movies that I watched this week, I just wanted to cover a few things that happened this past week. It's been pretty eventful. So this past Thursday, Bill Burge, who played Bobby in a lot of the Ernest movies, he passed away, unfortunately, and so I wanted to dedicate this live stream to Bill Burrs and to all those people that are in Los Angeles suffering from this terrible situation they've been put in with the wildfires and everything. So my heart goes out to them on that stuff too. Um, so I guess let's we can talk about some other things as I go throughout the stream, but I guess let's go ahead and jump into the movies that I watched this week. So I don't know if you watched last week's video, like there wasn't really a theme. I just was kind of like there was some stuff. Just kind of they were all over the place. The movies that I watched last week, but for this week, I had a few little themes running with the movie. So I started off with what's probably my favorite horror movie trilogy of all time, and that's Sam Raimi's Evil Dead trilogy. So a little backstory on how I discovered Evil Dead. I actually watched Army of Darkness first because my dad introduced it to me. And at the time, he was like working at this detention center, and they would have like a VCR, for like this, security guys like him that could sit there and watch while they are at work, and they had all these VHS tapes. And then like he brought Army of Darkness home one night. He said that his employer let him borrow it to take it home to watch, and he introduced it to me, and I had never seen anything like it, honestly, and I fell in love with the character of Ash right away watching that movie, and I love the humor in it because I grew up watching Three Stooges with my dad, and there was a lot of that type of humor, especially like the scene in Army of Darkness where there's three books of the Necronomicons, and Ash he gets the one and he doesn't say the right words, and then like all these like skeletons are coming up out of the ground, and one's like doing like the finger poke to the eyes and stuff. He tries to put his hand up to block it, and there's just all that ridiculous Three Stooges humor in that. And I loved that about it, and my dad, just like I said, he introduced me to that movie, and I didn't really know any more else about it. But like this was around a time when this was probably like mid 90s, and this is when I was really hardcore getting into horror movies. And I would go to the video store all the time, and I was renting stuff. And I remember being at the video store not long after I'd seen Army of Darkness, and I seen two VHS tapes. One of them that had Bruce Campbell on the front of the box, and I was like, "Oh, that's Bruce Campbell, who's in Army of Darkness," and did not know that Evil Dead 2 were related to Army of Darkness at that time. And so I rented these just solely because Bruce Campbell was in it, and I loved Bruce Campbell and Army of Darkness. So when I watched Evil Dead, I was like, and I heard his name was Ash. I was like, wait a minute, that's his name in Army of Darkness. And then as it went on, and because at that same time I rented Evil Dead 2 as well, and I watched it, and I was like, okay, so are these linked to Army of Darkness? And of course they are, because I was putting that together all at that time. I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, these movies came out before Army of Darkness. So that it I watched them kind of backwards, when I first found out what they were, but over time they have become my favorite horror movie trilogy of all time. Bruce Campbell is one of my all-time favorite actors. I just love uh, the characters that he plays, not only in the Evil Dead movies, but everything he's in. And he's always like this wise ass, cracking jokes type character in a lot of his movies. Um, but I'll always remember that the Evil Dead movies is what really introduced me to him. And my dad was also at that time watching this show on TV that Bruce Campbell was doing called The Legend of Briscoe County Jr. or something like that, I think it's called. I know I have the DVD set, but I, I always forget like the full title of the show, but I always call it the Briscoe County Jr. But and it's like a Western type show with Bruce Campbell, and he's doing those same kind of jokes. And Bruce Campbell was doing a lot of different TV shows, I think, at that time. I think he did this other show called Jack of All Trades that I watched. I've watched a few episodes of it, not a lot. And then he was also featured sometimes on Xena Warrior Princess. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Bruce Campbell. Big fan of Sam Raimi too. I can't leave him out of this because Sam Raimi is the one that created these movies, directed them. He did it all. And last year, in I believe it was March of last year in 2024, I went to a convention, Horror Hound Weekend, and I finally got to meet um, Sam Raimi at that. Also, Ted Raimi and Ivan Raimi, both of his brothers, were there as well. So I got to meet all three of them. My son Noah went with us, and he dressed up like Ash from Evil Dead 2. So it was such a great time, and I also want to mention that I have introduced, or me and my wife Candace, we have both introduced our son Noah to the Evil Dead movies, and he watched those before we got to meet the Raimi brothers, and that's why he was like adamant to. He's like, I want to dress like Ash from Evil Dead 2, and Evil Dead 2 out of the trilogy is my favorite as well. It's probably in my top 10 favorite horror movies of all time. Um, I mean, it's the movies are, except for the first. The first one has kind of like that humor in it, but it's very raw and more terrifying than it is funny. Um, so, and it had a low budget too when it came out in 1981. But it's got a more serious tone to it than what Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness does. But I think that's why I love Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness more than the original Evil Dead, because it has that humor in there. So and that's always super fun to me. Like, I mentioned in my last video, like Gremlins is my favorite movie of all time, and I really think that it's the one that introduced me to comedy horror. Um, so like just discovering, and after seeing Gremlins and then discovering all these other comedy horrors as I've gotten older, that's really probably up there as one of my favorite subgenres of horror. It has to be. I mean, slashers are probably my favorite subgenre of horror, but I mean, comedy horror runs neck and neck with slashers for me. Um, but yeah, like so, as I was saying though, Noah, my son Noah, he was adamant about dressing as Ash from Evil Dead 2, and then when we got to meet the Raimi brothers, they were really impressed with his outfit and stuff that his mom helped him make, and um, you know, he was super nervous when we were meeting Sam Raimi. I remember that because, he knew he's like, this Dad, this is the guy that created Ash and the Deadites. I'm like, I know, son. Trust me, I know. I mean, it was awesome for me too. Something I've been waiting on for years because I had been going to conventions for like 14, 15 years, and Sam Raimi was always on it was on my bucket list to meet. And so finally getting to meet him was really something else for me. Um, so overall, like I said, the Evil Dead trilogy is one of the greatest horror movie trilogies of all time. I mean, and I'm not saying that because I'm biased, because it's my favorite horror movie. It's got to be one of the best. Like, you know, and if you don't like Evil Dead, I get that's cool too. Like you like what you like. Everybody's different. Um, but that's why I wanted to start this channel, is because I've watched people on YouTube for so long, talking about what they like, doing their own thing. I was like, this is a huge passion for me when is movies, not just horror, but just movies in general. And that's why I'm glad to be doing this and have you guys like comment with me tonight. So before I move on to the next movie, let me go ahead and look at this chat, see what everybody's talking about tonight. So let's see here. Foz, you said what up, bro? Yeah, well, you see what's going down right now, my brother. Tom Baker, thanks for being here, man. Hello to you. Foz, what are you gonna do in CraterMania runs wild? That's right. Tell him, tell him, brother. Um, Let's see, rest in peace, Bobby. Yeah, Bill Burrs, man. And there's my wife Candace in the chat. Let's see, Foz. You see, I just saw where Denise Crosby lost her house to the fires of California. Oh, I did not know that. That's terrible. And she's such a nice lady, man. She is such a nice lady. Me and Candace met her several years ago, I think, at a horror hound when they had a lot of the Pet Cemetery people were at that show. She's super cool, man. Um, let's see. Tom, you said Exorcist 1 and 3 for you. Um, Candace, the Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. That's what the show is called. Thank you for that, hon. All right, let's see here. I gotta move my laptop for a minute to see the rest of this chat. Well, I could probably just minimize it. Here we go. Yeah, that works better. That way I don't gotta move. Sorry, guys. I know this is probably like this is super unprofessional, you Crater, because you just moving stuff around. You're getting off track. What you're talking about? Nah. But let's see here. We got Russell. Yeah. Hey Crater from a new sub. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And you love the Southern accent. Well, I'm glad somebody loves it. Whenever I go out of state somewhere, usually like I'll be talking to somebody like wherever it may be, and they'll be like, "I love your accent. Where are you from?" Like I'm from Eastern Kentucky, where a bunch of hillbillies live. See here, yeah, fires are so deadly to people and houses. Yeah, it's true. Um, all right, so thank you guys again for being here, joining the stream and chatting with me. I really appreciate it. This is super cool to me. I'm really liking this so far a lot more than I did the pre-recording where I didn't really communicate. And I love talking to people. I love making new friends and everything. So this is really cool. I think I may continue with this. So anyway, so we covered the Evil Dead trilogy. So the next thing I watched, I just like I said, Bruce Campbell's one of my favorite actors of all time. So I said, you know what? I can't get enough of Bruce. I gotta have more Bruce. So the next movie I watched this past week was Bubba Ho-Tep, directed by Don Coscarelli. Okay, so like I said, I love the Evil Dead movies, and they're probably my favorite as far as when it comes to Bruce Campbell's movies. Now, if the Evil Dead movies never existed, then Bubba Ho-Tep would definitely be my favorite Bruce Campbell movie. Um, because this movie is so funny, guys. If you've never seen Bubba Ho-Tep, I'm pretty sure it's on Tubi. I think that's what I watched on, either Tubi or Pluto TV, one of those. If you've never seen it, it's so awesome, and it also makes it even better if you're an Elvis fan, because in this movie, Bruce Campbell plays Elvis, and he's supposed to be the real Elvis. And there's like this story how like all these years ago, like the Elvis that died was not the real Elvis. It was this Elvis impersonator named Sebastian Haff that he traded places with. But even though he traded places with an impersonator, he still was like doing shows, like a lot smaller shows. But everybody that was seeing him thought he was this Elvis impersonator that he had switched places with. But in fact, he was the real Elvis. And then like there was a show that he did where he fell off stage and broke his hip, and that's he gets put in a nursing home. Um, so like there's this like running joke throughout the whole movie of like how he's got some kind of growth on his pecker, and he has to have this nurse keep coming in there and like putting this like ointment and stuff on him, and just some of the lines delivered by Bruce in this movie are hilarious. I mean, I don't want to give any of it away if you've never seen it, but it is so awesome. And like I said, Don Coscarelli directed this. He did the Phantasm movies. He did John Dies at the End. He's done some other things as well. But and the Phantasm movies are probably my favorite things by Don Coscarelli. But this is like again, like I said, if it with the Evil Dead trilogy, if it never existed, this would definitely be my favorite Bruce Campbell movie. Um, because it's so stupid. It's just so funny. And if like I said, if you're an Elvis fan, definitely check it out. It also has Ossie Davis in it, who he thinks that he's JFK. So it just kind of plays into that whole theme with like where Bruce is playing Elvis, and but he's supposed to be the real Elvis. But and then Ossie Davis, who is this African American man, thinks he's JFK. So it just, I don't know. It's just like there's a lot of stuff. But I guess I haven't told you like the whole premise of the movie though, like other than those guys' characters. But they're in this nursing home, and there's like this ancient mummy, redneck mummy cowboy character who's played by Bob Ivy, who did like stunts in the Phantasm movie. So he was already a friend of Don Coscarelli. So when he got into to play the role, and he's just basically coming to this nursing home, and he's like sucking the souls out of all these people in the nursing home, and he's sucking their souls from their buttholes. Again, like stay with me, guys. Trust me, this is a fantastic movie, and it's so funny. If you've never seen it, so like definitely go check it out soon if you haven't. Um, so let's go back to the chat, see what's going on here. Uh, Russell, you say I have a Canadian accent. I love Canadian accents, Russell. I'm a big wrestling fan too, and there a lot of Canadian wrestlers are some of my favorites. The Hart family, Brett and Owen, Chris Jericho, Lance Storm. Anybody that's wrestling fans or that's watching this, you definitely will recognize those names. I mean, there's a ton of wrestlers that have been greats, over the years from Canada, and I always love their accents. I always wanted to go to Canada. Hopefully one day, me and my family will go. Let's see. Candace said you love Canadian accents. Yeah, I know you do too. Oh, my friend Brandon's in here. Brandon, Bubba Ho-Tep is a good one. Hell yeah, it is. I love it. Tom, you said watch it, man. If you like the Evil Dead movies and you like that kind of humor, watch Bubba Ho-Tep. I mean, it will not disappoint. Kansas City, Bubba Ho-Tep is one of your favorites. Russell, Bruce was great in Escape from L.A. And I forget that sometimes that Bruce was in Escape from L.A. as like the surgeon or whatever he was. He had the really like messed up face. Yeah, like that's crazy. Like because if if you're Bruce, like when I started becoming a big Bruce Campbell fan, um, that really kind of fell under my radar because I was only look at the time. This was before like IMDb and all this other stuff on the internet, but I was looking for all of these movies that would star Bruce Campbell, and like he's not one of the stars of Escape from L.A. So I wasn't like super familiar with. I mean, I had seen Escape from L.A., but I didn't know until like years later that that was Bruce in that role because of all that makeup. Um, Let's see. You also said Bubba Ho-Tep is a great fun. It is. It's awesome. Oh, hey Dana, Evil Dead chick. Dana, hey, and if you guys are watching this and you've never seen Dana's channel on YouTube, it's Evil Dead chick. She does some really awesome videos. Like she does a lot of variety of things. Like kind of like what I'm doing here on this channel or planning to do. She does watch alongs. She's not done one in a while, but she does like a show called Movie Munchies, where like she like makes movie themed foods and she's like preparing it in her kitchen. So that's really, if you like that kind of stuff, it's really fun to watch. Anybody watching this, go check out her channel as well, Evil Dead Chick, and subscribe and check out some. She's got a ton of stuff, ton of content, guys. She's been doing it for several years. So, yeah, I love Dana. She's one of my best friends. She is my son's godmother. Wonderful person, one of the most wonderful people you ever meet in your life. Um, Russell, you say Kurt Russell? What he was? It was a John Carpenter Elvis film, and that's another thing I need to mention before I move on from Bubba Ho-Tep is my dad. I showed this movie to my dad because he loves Elvis. Like he absolutely loves Elvis, and my dad would even like go to these shows where there's this guy named Eddie Miles, and he was an Elvis impersonator, which just plays even more to the funniness to me at least when it comes to Bubba Ho-Tep. So I showed this movie to my dad, and he loves it. He absolutely loves it because he already knew who Bruce Campbell was because he introduced me to Army of Darkness. So I remember like after this, I had never seen that movie Elvis that John Carpenter did, and John Carpenter is my favorite director of all time. So I was like, okay, I want to watch this. And my dad, of course, had already seen it. He's a huge Elvis fan. He's like, oh yeah, yeah, I've seen that movie. Um, so I watched it, and it's probably one of the best like Elvis movie, like about his actual life and stuff. It's one of the best Elvis movies out there. I recommend it too. Thanks for mentioning that, Russell. That's awesome. Um, and you say, hey, oh, and Russell saying hey to Dana, and let's see, Russell, you said Kurt was in an episode of Lost in Space. He was. He was also, I think, in like some. He was. You know, I just thought he didn't. Kurt Russell make his film debut when he was a little boy in an Elvis movie. Yeah, I may be wrong about that. If I am, somebody correct me. But yeah, he was in a lot. I love Lost in Space. He was in that. He was in I think Gunsmoke. He was in shoot, he did a lot of Disney stuff as a kid and as he's growing up. So yeah, love Kurt Russell. That's another one of my favorite all-time actors. He's in one of my favorite films of all time, The Thing, as McCready. So yeah, you can't go wrong with Kurt Russell. But let's. You said I was right about that. Okay, good. I thought that's what I thought he was. I thought that was his first uh, movie he did. But anyway, let's move on. Like I said, I watched Bubba Ho-Tep, which is directed by Don Coscarelli, and I mentioned these as I was talking about Bubba Ho-Tep. But the next series of films that I watched was Phantasm 1 through 4, and I said, if I want to kind of keep this kind of like the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon type thing. So I'm like, start with Evil Dead, move to another Bruce Campbell movie, Bubba Ho-Tep. It's directed by Don Coscarelli. Okay, let's watch some more Don Coscarelli movies. So Phantasm. Okay, so where do I start with Phantasm? I know a lot of people that are kind of like new to the Phantasm movies that have watched them recently or in the past few years have said a lot of the same things, saying that they're kind of confusing. And I'll agree with that to an extent. And what I mean by that is um, when I first watched the Phantasm movies, because this was probably in mid 2000s. No, wait a minute. This is no. It was around like 2009. It was kind of late, so I was kind of late at finding out what the Phantasm movies were. Um, but I started listening to Dead Pit Radio, and they have a YouTube channel and stuff too. And I'm good friends with those guys because they live not very far away from me, and I think they're actually doing their own like stream right now on YouTube too. So like, but stay here, watch me. You can watch them later. But anyway, so when I first met those guys and I started listening to their show and stuff when they were just doing like the weekly radio show because they were the first ever horror movie podcast on the internet. And I just also thought it's cool because they sounded like me. They lived close to where I live, and we were just a bunch of horror loving hillbillies. Um, but anyway, so I remember them talking about Phantasm like on their show, or they might have like I think they may have interviewed Reggie Bannister or something like that. And I was like, I don't know these movies, so I watched them, and the first one, I love. I think the first one may be close to my favorite one of the series, but I'm not sure. Like it's kind of tied. And I know people don't like ties, but it's kind of it and Phantasm 3 are kind of tied as my favorite. But and it's funny that it worked out because the Phantasm movies and the Evil Dead movies are kind of parallel with one another with a lot of the like undead characters are in it. The first Phantasm is also pretty raw and more serious tones with a lot of like horror and sci-fi blends in the film. And also, the Phantasm series features my favorite movie car of all time, and that being the Cuda. And we actually met Don Coscarelli and Reggie Bannister and A. Michael Baldwin and Bill Thornbury at last year at Scarefest in Lexington, where we got this really awesome photo op with them with the Cuda, and it's the Cuda from Phantasm 2, which I know A. Michael Baldwin is not in that. He was replaced by James LaGrosse. But if you know the Phantasm movies, and I tell this to everybody, like with the in Phantasm 1, 3, and 4, um, Mike is played by A. Michael Baldwin, but he's replaced in Phantasm 2 by James LaGrosse. But it kind of works because with how the Phantasm movies are kind of focused around if is it real, is it not real, is it a dream? There's a lot of like factors that play into the Phantasm movies. Um, but it just with him a different guy playing Mike in Phantasm 2, it kind of works if you think about it. But about just the whole like is it real, is this really happening type thing. But going back to what I was saying about like it being parallel with the Evil Dead films, the first Evil Dead film was very serious, very raw, and just mostly terrifying. And as the series went on, it got more comical as it was being picked up by bigger studios. And that's the same thing with the Phantasm movies. After the first Phantasm movie, there was a more like humor placed in the Phantasm movies, and Reggie, who wasn't really one of the uh, characters featured the most in the original Phantasm, because I think Jody and Mike were like the two characters that were featured the most, along with the tall man, and then Reggie was kind of placed throughout the film here and there, especially towards the end. But he really became the star. Reggie Bannister ended up becoming the star of those Phantasm movies, and I've said this for years, and I've seen a lot of other people say it as well. But his character that he plays, which is also named Reggie in the movies, is very parallel to Ash. And there's like all this like comedy stuff in like the sequels of Phantasm, like I said, and there's like kind of stuff that's parallel to like stuff that happened like Evil Dead 2, because you kind of have like I think it's in Phantasm 3 maybe. There's like the hand, and it's kind of like making like the voice. There's like a voice coming from it as it's like crawling around, and that's also like Evil Dead 2 with Ash's like possessed hand. And I absolutely love that about it. Like I said, and that's another reason why I'm drawn to the Phantasm movies as a whole, is because they introduced that humor into the sequels, and I think that that's one of the reasons why I love Phantasm 3 so much, because there's a lot of humor, and there's always this like running joke in the Phantasm movies where like Reggie's trying to get laid, but he can't. Something always awful happens and screws him out of it. No pun intended, but or is it? But 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 yeah, I love that about it, and and everybody from those films, like I said, I got to meet them at Scarefest. They're wonderful people. Don Coscarelli is probably one of the best um, like instances that I've met a celebrity where it's one of the best experiences I had. He was very, friendly with us, very talkative. He was like, kind of shocked that I knew a lot of stuff about um, Angus Scrimm's history getting into film, whereas like he had to change his name to Angus Scrimm to get a SAG card and all this stuff, and so we talked about a lot of things, and like he really took his time with us, and super appreciate that. So if anybody watching is a convention person, and you've never met Don Coscarelli, and you're a Phantasm fan, I mean, if you can catch him at a show, definitely. I know these conventions are expensive nowadays, guys, but there are people out there still doing these shows that are worth every penny, if you ask me. And Don Coscarelli's one of them. Reggie Bannister's another. I don't know if Reggie's going to do many shows after what he did Scarefest, because he's not in the best of health right now, unfortunately, and I know that's gonna hurt me big time whenever he eventually passes away. Um, you know, hell of an actor, hell of a guy. The best part, hands down about the Phantasm series. Um, but like I said, very classic film series with Phantasm. And you might notice I said I watched Phantasm 1 through 4. Now I left out 5 because I'm not really a fan of Phantasm 5 Ravager. I always feel like Phantasm 4 wrapped the story up as well as it could. And what's interesting about Phantasm 4, and I know I'm kind of all over the place with this, guys, but this is just how I talk about movies. Don't expect any kind of full reviews for each movie from me. I'm just kind of, winging this as I go. But what I was saying though, the interesting thing about Phantasm 4 is that it comes full circle, because there's all of this like unused footage from the original Phantasm movie back in 1979, and I think Phantasm 4 came out like late 90s, early 2000s or something like that. I'm not sure the year that Phantasm 4 came out, but it'd been like years and years after the original film had come out in '79, and they had all this unused footage for Phantasm 4 that they used, and they like kind of wrote the story around those scenes. And the end of the movie in Phantasm 4 ends with one of those scenes of the unused footage, and they kind of have like this audio playing over of like present day Reggie and Mike talking, and like the young Mike from the '79 Phantasm is like looking around like he's reacting to hearing their voices, and it works perfectly. With the Phantasm movies, with how each of them end, it's like this is never going to be over. Is the feeling that you get, like they're just going to keep playing this game, as long as they can. They're going to keep trying to get rid of the tall man, but it's not happening. And just the way that Phantasm 4 ends, I feel like it was ended perfectly, and they didn't need to continue. And because But yet they did make Phantasm 5 Ravager. I've only watched it one time. I don't really have a desire to watch it again. It was a movie I really did not enjoy, and that's really hard for me to say because I love the Phantasm series. But it is what it is, guys. So that's why I chose not to watch Phantasm 5 along with the others this week. And I'll probably never watch it again. It's just how I feel, guys. So anyway, let's go back to the chat, see what's going on. See what anybody's got to say about Phantasm. Russell, you saying you remember watching the VHS of Phantasm? You loved it, right? Yeah, that's the same thing with me, man. Like, um, I as soon as I watched it, as soon as I found out about these movies, like I watched them all in like um, over the course of like 2 days or something like that, and I just fell in love with them, man. Like I said, the first Phantasm, very parallel to the Evil Dead series because the original Evil Dead and the original Phantasm both very serious. But I was so happy to see them start introducing humor into the Phantasm movies, which and it's entertaining to me. I mean, like some people don't like the whole comedy horror element, but I love it. I love it, like cause those are my two favorite genres in this world is horror and comedy. Um, so you said they what? I'm not sure what you mean. You said they had a cottage up there. Um, let's see. said Don's film with Reggie Michaels, Kenny and Company. You know, I seen Kenny and Company a long time ago, and um, I actually had the DVD of it, but I sold it recently. Um, just because it was starting to fetch some good money on eBay, and I just it's good. It's all right for what it, but it's not something that I would watch multiple times over and over. I think Ari Lehman, who played Jason in the first Friday the 13th, is also in that movie with A. Michael Baldwin, who played Mike in the Phantasm movies. Um, let's see. Barracuda and Cuda are two different cars. They 100%. You are right about that, sir. Now the Cuda from the Phantasm films though are, I mean, it's so cool, man. And it's got, it's jet black colored. I mean, just the, I'm not really a big car guy anyway, cause I don't drive. I have epilepsy. I just want to go ahead and disclose that. So, but you know, I've never been able to drive. Never will probably. Uh, but I love seeing if something catches my eye like the Cuda did in the Phantasm movies. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's really cool. I would like to ride one of those. Um, let's see here. You said for Phantasm 2 they wanted a known actor. Are you talking about James LaGrosse? Because that's the only thing I know him from, brother. Uh, I mean, he may have been other things, but I don't remember him. He's not really got a very familiar face to me. If I have seen him in anything else, I only know him from Fantastic Two, and um, and this is very weird to say, but I also feel like James LaGrosse has a very punchable face. Um, I don't know why. There's just something about him. I didn't really care for his portrayal as Mike in Phantasm 2. Um, the biggest reason to watch Phantasm 2 is Reggie. Um, and then there's even like a scene. I think it's in Phantasm 2. It might be the third one. I can't remember. Because because each of these movies, they all run into one another, and it's all a continuing story. But and a lot of the kind of similar things happen in each of them. But I can't remember if it's either Phantasm 2 or 3, where like one of the guys working for the tall man that's wearing like a gas mask, him and Reggie are having like this chainsaw fight. And that's very reminiscent of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 chainsaw fight between Dennis Hopper and Leatherface. And I thought that was super cool. Like, it's just, I can't get over, like, Reggie is a absolute ladies man slash badass slash ice cream man. And to me, that's so awesome. That's just, that fits my type of sense of humor. Tommy said the most talented directors are friendly people. Absolutely. Like I said, Don Coscarelli is amazing person, very friendly. Um, John Carpenter, my favorite director of all time. He was not like overly friendly or anything, but he was super cool when I met him. I met him a couple of different times, and he was cool both times. Not super talkative. I mean, really, I didn't really know a whole lot what to say to him because the guy has seen it all, done it all. Heard it all from fans. So, I mean, there's really nothing new that you come up with at this point to talk to John Carpenter about. Sam Raimi, another really I met, super cool guy. Didn't get to talk to him a whole lot, but he was like, he was very like, how can I say, he was really interested in the questions that I was asking him because I was trying to be quick with him. I didn't even ask him anything about Evil Dead. I asked him about because where I'm a wrestling fan. I talked to him about the first Spider-Man movie that he did and how he got in touch with Macho Man to do the role of Bonesaw. and he was just like, he knew that the role that he needed, was of a wrestler, and he wanted to actually get someone um, that was a really super well known wrestler for the role. And he said, one of the first people that came to his mind was Macho Man, because Macho Man was super over in wrestling. He was in the Slim Jim commercials and all that. And so he just asked him, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And he said that he was super polite with everybody on set, super appreciative for being asked to be in the movie, because and as he came to find out, Macho Man was also a Spider-Man fan too, growing up. So, it just that worked out, and I think that's one of the most memed like scenes out of the first Spider-Man movie was with Macho Man. He's like, "I've got you for 3 minutes," and the Bonesaw character is just crazy. Like it's so unlike the actual wrestler that Peter Parker fights in the comics, in the original comic. Let's see. Russell, you say you saw Angry Scream and a couple other films. Um, and I didn't talk about Angus a lot. I've met pretty much everybody from the Phantasm movies except Angus, but I did get a friend of mine lives in Virginia. His name's Jeremy. He actually went to a convention years ago uh, in I want to say it was in New Jersey or somewhere like that, and Angus was at that show, so I sent my Phantasm poster to him, and he got Angus to sign it for me and everything. So I do have Angus's autograph, but unfortunately, I never got to meet him. And it really sucks because that's happened a lot. Like there's a lot of people that I've wanted to meet, and then they'll pass away, and I never got to meet them, or even like the fact where I've been to shows where people were there that I had the opportunity to go and meet them. And I'm like, oh well, I'll get them later at another show. And then like David Hess was one of those guys, and then he passed away. And I was like, shit, I seen him at several shows, and I had a chance to meet him, and I didn't. So my advice to anybody, even though like I said, conventions are expensive, if there's someone out there that you really want to meet, and they're at a show you're going to, take that time to meet them, because you never know what's going to happen. Days, months, years from then, you may never see them in another show, and then something awful happens to them, like they pass away. So yeah, take that chance and run with it if you got it. Um, let's see. Russell, you said you don't give a monkey's what people think of the Phantasm sequels. Yeah, you loved all the films and Saw films. Now, that's a series that I never really got into, was the Saw films. I liked the first three Saw films, but past that, I watched a couple after three, um, but I started getting kind of disinterested in them. Um, it's I don't know what it is. Like I think it's just the torture aspect of them. I'm not real big on torture in horror films. I know that that may not be popular amongst horror fans worldwide, because especially like the Terrifier films. I don't like those. I've seen them, but they're not for me. But that's cool. That's why it's great. Like all horror fans are different, and we all. I may like stuff that other horror fans will hate, and vice versa. But that's the beauty about having your own opinion on things. Um, Russell, you're a 68-year-old movie frantic. I think you meant fanatic. But yeah, that's awesome, man. Like you are my mom and dad's age, so that's super cool. That my dad is still my dad is the reason why I got into horror movies, and because he was showing a lot of stuff to me at a very young age, just trying to scare me to death, I think. But I ended up becoming a lifelong horror fan. Um, and he still loves horror movies to this day. He's a big Svengoolie fan, and he's always watching Svengoolie on Saturday nights. Um, but my dad is kind of a stickler on horror films. He doesn't really like anything in color. He likes mostly the black and white stuff, which is I think that's where I get a lot of my fandom for the Universal monster movies from too, because he's super big on those, like the Dracula and Frankenstein films. I think those are his favorite. But I definitely didn't get my love for Vincent Price from him because he's for some reason my dad doesn't like Vincent Price. And that's so odd to me because Vincent Price to me is like the coolest son bitch that ever lived when it comes to horror movies. Um, and yeah, I'll get into that sometime later. I know I've got a lot of Vincent Price movies planned for later in this year that I'm going to be covering. Let's see. And you used to own a black Cuda when you were a teen. God, that's so cool, man. Like you're a legend, dude. You're a horror movie fan. You had a black Cuda when you was a teen. I see you're always posting like super cool stuff. You're super knowledgeable, man. I'm always seeing you over on Dana's channel talking, and like you got some, you're a really cool guy, man. You're from Canada. That's cool. I mean, damn. Um, Oh, and the four-barrel shotgun. I'm glad you brought that up, so I can't forget that. Like that's one of the super cool things. And so Reggie makes the four-barrel shotgun in Phantasm 2, and like the barrels are kind of like there's one like slanted like this, one slanted like this, and they're kind of like so two is shooting out that way, and two shells will shoot out that way. Um, so there's a scene. This is so ridiculous, but there's this scene in Phantasm 3 where like all these like the little dwarf slaves that are like the minions of the tall man, they're like up in this tree above Reggie and Mike, and they're just kind of like scattered all over the place and up in this tree. So Reggie just like points up that four-barrel shotgun and just shoots it, and then you just see like a dwarf fall over here, you fall, dwarf fall over here's another one that falls out, and it's just it's stupid shit like that that I absolutely love. I mean, that's one if it's stupid and it's just like unrealistic, that's even better for me. That's my type of humor. Um, let's see here. Okay, I think I scrolled up too far. Okay. Um, yeah, Dana says Reggie is a man. Yes, he is. Um, they used a long chainsaw. Motel Hell. Man, that's another one. Motel Hell. And I know I'm kind of getting off track. I got a couple more movies I need to cover, but like I gotta talk about this stuff with you guys. This is so fun. Um, Motel Hell is one of me and my wife's favorites. Um, Farmer Vincent, man, like what a character for real. Like, and then the whole scene where he's wearing the pig's head with the chainsaw. I mean, it's iconic. It really is. It's very underrated. You don't. I mean, I know it's pretty popular now amongst horror fans, but like years ago, I hardly heard anybody talk about Motel Hell. Especially like in the late '90s, early 2000s, when I was like super big into horror. I was trying to watch anything I could, and I think I ended up watching Motel Hell like on AMC or something. I think they played it like at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Because this was like in the years I was probably in high school and I was like staying up late on the weekends, um, watching obscure horror movies and Mystery Science Theater 3000 and stuff like that, which I'm a huge fan of still this day of Mystery Science Theater. Um, let's see here. Russell, you also say you're an old school wrestling fan. Seen many old. Me too, man. Like I started watching wrestling at a very young age. The youngest or the earliest that I can remember was I was about 4 years old. This is in 1990. First match I ever remember seeing was Sting and Ric Flair, and Sting was my all-time favorite wrestler. He is to this day. He's like my all-time favorite wrestler. He's the reason I got into wrestling. Both him and Ric Flair, and then that kind of expanded into other wrestlers like Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man, guys like that. So the old school stuff is my forte as well, Russell. Actually, I was just watching some WWF Primetime Wrestling earlier, the show that Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon was hosting. Um, and this was like, I think 1988 was the time frame I was watching it because it was like right after the Saturday Night's Main Event where Macho Man, or I'm sorry, not Macho Man, Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant had this match on Saturday Night's Main Event, and so like the whole story was that Million Dollar Man Ted DiBiase paid off this referee who was supposed to was like in reality was a twin brother. They're Dave and Earl Hebner, but like so the referee was supposed to have been Dave Hebner, but it's actually Earl Hebner. And then after the match, so the ref like screws over Hogan, and Andre wins the title, and then Andre gives the title to Ted DiBiase. And then like this, here comes another ref, and there's identical twin refs in the ring, and like Hogan's like losing his mind because he's like, "How much did you spend on the plastic surgery, brother?" It's just, oh man, like it was the wrestling was the best. The old school wrestling is the absolute best, and I mean, there's no argument there. There's just because there was nothing like it. It was, if you look at reactions from the crowd today in wrestling, because I still watch wrestling to this day, follow everything. I'm a huge, huge fan of wrestling. But if you watch it, the crowd reaction and everything, compared to what it was like in the 80s and the 90s, totally different. I mean, totally different animal of wrestling fans back then. So, yeah, that's really cool. Um, Tom, you said you wanted to meet John Saxon. That was one that I did get to meet John Saxon. Regrettably though, I didn't get anything signed by him from A Nightmare on Elm Street. But I did pick up a Black Christmas 8x10 from his table when I did meet him. Um, he was another super cool guy, man. And I really hate that he passed away, and I wish he could have lived longer and meet a lot more fans because there's a lot of fans going to conventions now that's just kind of are new to it in the past few years. So these fans that are going to them now have missed out on a ton of like really uh, awesome opportunities in the past. But that's not their fault though because they didn't. Some people didn't know about conventions or they couldn't afford to go to them or stuff or anything like that, which it's crazy because it's even more expensive nowadays. But and then you got Robert England, who is charging $130 for an autograph, 150 for a photo with him. Um, but it is what it is. It's worth it to you, and you want to pay that. More power to you, man. Because you know that's it's your decision. It's your choice. Like it's nobody else's but yours, and nobody should give a shit what you do. That's because that's up to you, and that's your choice to do that. So screw everybody else and what their negative thoughts on that whole thing. Because believe me, I've spent a ton of money, more than I should have at conventions, and I still go to them. I love them. They're very therapeutic to me in a way because it's a weekend where I can escape from the real world and just meet people that I love in these movies, and get to talk to them or get to see friends that I don't get to see any other time of year than but except at these conventions, and some of them being vendors, and I can buy cool stuff from them and support them. Conventions are something else, man. I love them. Um, Russell, you say you love Jeffrey Combs and you like the Cellar Dweller Monster. Oh, I love. Yeah, that's another. I'm a big. I did the Reanimator. If you haven't watched last week's video, Russell, last week I watched the Reanimator movies, um, and I talk about how much I love them and everything. And I'm a big Jeffrey Combs fan too. There's a lot of other stuff. Like From Beyond and Castle Freak, and he's just done so much stuff with like Charles Band, working with Charles Band. Um, let's see what else is going on here. Candace, you said, or it could be like how you went to see Lou Perryman. Oh yeah, that's an interesting story. So the first ever convention I went to was back in 2009 in Strongsville, Ohio, called Cinema Wasteland, and they were advertising a 35th. This was at the time is a 35th anniversary reunion of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So Gunnar Hansen was there, Marilyn Burns was there, John Dugan, Ed Neal, pretty much everybody that they could get that was alive from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, aside from Toby Hooper, because I think he was like sick at the time and he wasn't doing shows. Um, but they had also had Lou Perryman from Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, who played LG, advertised for the show. And so I get there and to the show. I hadn't looked at anything on the internet like the past day or whatever. But I get there, I'm walking around checking everything out of the show. I'm like amazed because I've never seen anything like this before, never been to anything like this. And when I met John Dugan, who played Grandpa in the original Texas Chainsaw, I was like, before I go, do you know where Lou Perryman is? And he kind of like looked at me with a straight face. He's like, "You're joking, right?" And I said, "No, sir. I'm wanting to meet him. I'm a big fan." And he's like, "Lou Perryman was murdered yesterday outside of his home." And I was just in absolute shock. I was like, I didn't know even how to react to that. I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea. I didn't know, I didn't hear about this. And he was like, yeah, it's very crazy. What happened? So I remember like after I left that show, because I was just there for that one day. Um, got on the internet, was looking around for it, and I was like, this guy who had just been like released from a mental institution or something just randomly came into Lou Perryman's yard and shot him, killed him. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so insane to think about. Um, but yeah, it's very wild. Um, let's see here. Russell, you said you're a gore geek, and I actually like the Hatchet films. I know that's another series of films that get shit on by people, but I really like the Hatchet films. I like Adam Green. Kane Hodder as Victor Crowley is super cool. And then in the first Hatchet movie, Kane also plays Victor Crowley's daddy in like the flashback sequences. So that's super cool. Um, see, Dana, you love Vincent Price. Yeah, me too. Me too, my friend. Tom, Peter Cushing, and cool thing about Peter Cushing and Vincent Price, their birthdays are a day apart. So uh, Vincent Price also shares his birthday with Christopher Lee. And all three of those guys were like super good friends and did movies together and stuff. And so I always thought that was super interesting about them, that those three, that um, their birthdays are just all three of them, together, or their birthdays are just a day apart. Um, let's see. Brandon, you said my dad's first car was a Cuda, and he regrets selling it. Man, if I had a Cuda, and then even though I don't drive, even if I just had one, if I just randomly ended up acquiring a Cuda, man, and I sold it, I'd regret it too. I mean, that's man, like that's awesome that your dad had one of those. So, um, Candace, she said, don't forget to hit that thumb. Yeah, don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already subscribed already. And if you are subscribed, tell some other people about it. Tell them to subscribe, because I want to build this channel. I'm having fun doing it. I love this. I'm having a lot more fun tonight, guys, than I did last week, because I was so nervous putting that video together, and doing the videos at the time. Go look at that video from last week and look at me. I'm a completely different person than what I am tonight, just talking on this live stream. Um, because I was so nervous. I was like, oh God, I was like, what if I mess up? What if I forget about something to say? That's why I enjoy this more because I can kind of like just be real with you guys, be authentic, and just talk, you know, about stuff like, you know, and if I forget something, I can always come back to it, you know. So that's great about that. Um, let's see. Vincent Price did a Hamilton, Ontario kids telly series, The Hilarious House of Frankenstein. And so, you know, Russell, me and my wife, I recently discovered that a few months ago. It's on Tubi, and it's interesting to say the least. I haven't watched enough of it to kind of gain an appreciation for it, but I don't know. Like the little bit that I did watch of it, it's some of it's kind of boring. I'm not gonna lie, but you know, maybe I should give it another chance. You know, maybe one of these days I'll give it another chance. Uh, Tom, you said Tourist Trap. I love Tourist Trap, my friend. Oh my God. And I only seen Tourist Trap for the first time probably about close to 10 years ago. And what's I'm a big Linnea Quigley fan, and I've only found this out like in the past year. But Linnea in one of the shots with like the mannequins in Tourist Trap, Linnea is one of the mannequins. She's just got like that prosthetic mask or whatever on, like a lot of the other extras that they got to play the mannequins in some of those scenes later in the film. But Tourist Trap is awesome. I love it. Absolutely love it. And I read that they're Barbara Crampton. Excuse me. Barbara Crampton is a producer on the remake that they're doing of Tourist Trap. So don't know how that's going to turn out. Sometimes remakes are not that great, but sometimes they work. Sometimes they do work, and they end up being better than what they that you thought they were going to be. Let's see. Sorry, I'm gonna get to these last two movies, guys. I really enjoy reading you guys' comments about Chuck Connors. Yeah, super strange movie with Chuck Connors, and I love him as well, Tom. Russell, you grew watching the Rifle. That's another show. My dad and my father-in-law both love the Rifleman with Chuck Connors, and that's probably where they know him from. Because I highly doubt that my dad has seen Tourist Trap. If he has seen it, I would definitely be surprised, and especially my father-in-law, who was not a fan of horror movies. Um, he definitely did not. And my father-in-law did pass away, unfortunately, back in December of 2023. And somebody I miss very, very much. He was not only my father-in-law, but he was one of my best of friends. And but he didn't like horror movies. He did not. So I'll leave that at that. Um, let's see. Russell, you love the OG Sheik and Abdullah the Butcher's awesome, man. Like that's one of the innovators of hardcore wrestling right there. Um, dang, there's a lot of I appreciate you guys just like chatting this comment section up, man. This is killer. I love this. Um, I'm gonna just kind of skip ahead. I'm sorry yeah, I'm sorry I have epilepsy too, but I'm 38 years old. I'm still alive. That's all that matters. Let's see. All right, we'll get back to the chat here in just a little bit. Um, already over an hour. I wanted to try to keep this at an hour or a little bit less, but you know what? Screw it. I'm having fun with this. I'm just gonna go with the flow here. So let me go ahead and move on to the next movie because it's been a little bit of time now since I've talked about any movies and um, here on this stream. So the next movie that I watched this past week was the 1978, I believe it's 78 remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Now you might remember me saying just a few minutes ago about sometimes remakes are better than what you thought they would end up being. Well, this is one of those rare chances where I personally feel that the 70s version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers is better than the 1956 original. Which, speaking of the original, who starred, I think the guy's name was Kevin McCarthy. He has a cameo in this remake, the with the one with Donald Sutherland, and where he's just like, he's running down the street, and like he runs into the car that Donald Sutherland's driving. He's like, they're here, they're coming, and then and then he keeps running, and then like all this like group of people are running after him, and then as Donald Sutherland turns that corner in his car, and he sees that the character that Kevin McCarthy was playing is now dead in the street, but they didn't see how he got killed. Um, but it's like I said, it's got um, Jeff Goldblum is in it, and it's got I can't think of her name right now, but she's also in the original Alien film. And she's actually, spoiler alert, but she's the last surviving human at the end of this Invasion of the Body Snatchers remake. Um, but I can't think of her name. Damn, that kills me when that happens. But anyway, this is a fantastic movie. It is, like I said, it's one of those rare instances where I feel like it is better than the original, and I don't feel that way about a lot of remakes. Like it's the Fly, the Jeff Goldblum, the Fly that David Cronenberg did in the '80s. Actually, I think that was like that was the number one movie that was in theaters at the time when I was born in '86. And then like again, like I mentioned earlier, John Carpenter's The Thing, which is also a remake of The Thing from Another World. It to me, it's that I think that John Carpenter's The Thing is the best horror movie remake of all time. And like it's another one of those instances where I think it's better than the original. With no disrespect to the original, because the original has James Arness in it as the actual alien in the movie, and you may know James Arness is Matt Dillon from the Gunsmoke series if you're a fan of that. Um, but Invasion of the Body Snatchers, it just I feel like this movie is a masterpiece because it definitely captures like this sense of paranoia and dread that resonates even today. Because there's a lot of paranoia and stuff going around in today's society, especially with all this AI crap. Um, and like today, I seen this video of like, and it reminds me of that because this video of like this guy that had made this android woman that's supposed to be like your partner or whatever as to fill that gap of a real person. I'm like, wait, I was like, we are 4 years away from 2029 where the original Terminator movie starts out. I said this is get too close to what happens in the Terminator. I'm beginning to think that James Cameron was a prophet, and and he could see the future. And the Terminator has turned into a documentary, folks. But but anyway, all jokes aside, but there is definitely a sense of paranoia in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and there's just the movie is like gets more and more suspenseful as it goes on. And like I said, just to keep it short, it is one of the best horror movie remakes of all time. That also has like that sci-fi element to it as well. Um, And okay, thank you, Ken. My lovely wife reminded me of her name, Veronica Cartwright, who, like I said, was in the original Alien as well. So yeah, like I said, spoiler if you haven't seen it, sorry about that. But yeah, she is the last surviving human at the end of the film. And that I feel like that end of the film, with cause it go the last few minutes of the movie, like it shows Donald Sutherland like walking around this facility and everything with all these other people who are already turned, and you don't see Donald Sutherland get turned. in the movie. That you just kind of see him walking around, and you kind of wonder what's going on. Did because all he had to do was like go to sleep, and then he would like turn, and he had not slept at that point for so long. He's trying to stay awake, but so you don't ever see him go to sleep, but you see him like this next day or whatever walking around all that, and then it gets to the end of the film, and he's walking out in the open, and here comes Veronica Cartwright's character, and like she's like yelling at him, and then he like turns to her and his like mouth opens and like he does like the alien screech sound that all of them do in the movie, and like she's like freaking out, and that's how it ends. And like it's so the aliens won in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and they took over. So um, let's see, Russell, you said Hobo with a Shotgun. Fake trailer is a Canadian. I love Hobo with a Shotgun, man. It's a super gory ass movie, but like I don't know, like just the dude that plays the main character in that. There's like a part in that movie where he goes into like this hospital, and there's like all these like newborn babies there, and he's like talking to them, and you just feel so sorry for him, man, because he's just this homeless guy in this like chaotic um, post-apocalyptic type world. And yeah, I need to watch that again soon. I love that movie. Let's see what else is going on here. Jeffrey Combs is great in Would You Rather. I don't think I've seen that one, Russell. I need to check that. Like I said, I'm a big Jeffrey Combs fan, so I need to watch that at some point. Hmm. Let's see here. Another telly show was Wanted Dead or Alive with Steve McQueen, and the sequel was Rutger Hauer with the same title. I don't think I'm familiar with those either, but I do love Steve McQueen. I love Bullet and The Great Escape, and yeah, Steve McQueen's awesome, man. Let's see. I think was Steve McQueen also in Vanishing Point? I can't remember. Um, Tom, you said you've got both Body Snatchers movie posters. Yeah, that's really. I don't think I have any Body Snatchers movie posters. I got a lot of movie posters, but don't have either one. But I would love to have like an original one sheet of the '70s remake of because I absolutely love that movie. Let's see. Oh yeah, like I just remembered too, like one of the freakiest parts of the Invasion of Body Snatchers remake is when they're like out on the street with all these people who've already turned, and then there's like this dog that runs up with a person with a human face, and that is just like what nightmares are made of. It's hell on earth. If I saw a dog with a human face, which you know there's also a dog with like a human face in towards the end of Nightmare on Elm Street Part Two. But if I ever saw something like that in real life, I'm not sure. I would probably crap myself. I'm not gonna lie. I mean that's That would be horrifying to witness in real life. Um, let's see. Body Snatchers OG ending reminds us of Halloween 3. You know, Russell, I really think that Tommy Lee Wallace, who did Halloween 3, I really think that he may have got inspiration from the ending of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. But I could be wrong about that. But you're definitely right that it's very similar to it. You said your favorite horror comedy is Abbott Costello Meet Frankenstein. I love Abbott Costello, and later in this year I'm going to be doing a Universal Monsters Week, and I said I can't do Universal Monsters Week without doing the Abbott Costello Meet the Monsters movies that they did, like Meet Frankenstein, Invisible Man, and uh, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, all those. So I'm gonna get around to those at some point too. I'm a big Abbott Costello fan. I actually have a picture in our um, our living room that a friend of ours did this portrait of them for me, and I absolutely love it. And it's I may get that sometime and show it to you guys. Um, let's see here. She was. You're right, Russell. She was in The Sound of Music, and that's a movie that my wife loves and introduced to me. And I'm not a musical guy by any means, but The Sound of Music is a beautiful, beautiful movie. It's absolutely absolute classic. Um, love it. Yeah. Let's see. All right, so I'll come back to this chat just a little bit, and so you guys keep talking to each other. Just like let's keep this going. So like I got one more movie from this past week that I watched, and when I said I was going to watch Invasion of the Body Snatchers, I said I'm going to watch a movie that was inspired by Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and it's one of my favorite movies out of any genre from the 1990s, and that is The Faculty. I absolutely love this movie because it is so much like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And also, not to mention, it's a lot like The Breakfast Club, too, if you look at it and kind of analyze it. Because, so, again, I'm going to give some spoilers here, guys. Just if you've never seen The Faculty, right now might be the time to stop this video, go watch The Faculty. It's free on Pluto TV. Um, and then you can come back and watch, the rest of this. But, so, giving you fair warning right now. But, as I was saying, The Faculty is a mix between Invasion of the Body Snatchers and The Breakfast Club, because in the end of so throughout the movie, there's this character played by Clay Duvall named Stokely, and she's like your typical goth teenage girl in high school and stuff, wears all black and all that, and she's super into like horror and sci-fi. So, in the end of The Faculty, she hooks up with Stan, who is this guy who was just left the football team. He was like the star quarterback of the football team. So, he's kind of a jock. And that reminds me a lot of The Breakfast Club with Ali Sheedy and Emilio Estevez. So Ali Sheedy at the beginning of the movie and throughout the film, she's like this goth, weird chick, but like at a certain point in the movie, you know, Molly Ringwald's character Claire gives her this like makeover, and kind of turns her into she's wearing like lighter colors, and she's wearing makeup, looks a lot different. Um, and she ends up hooking up with Emilio Estevez, who's like this star sports player of that school, and he's got that he's kind of like a jock. So it's very similar of like that relationship between Stan and Stokely and The Faculty. Now this cast overall like of The Faculty is so impressive because you got Elijah Wood, you got Josh Hartnett, you have Robert Patrick, Piper Laurie, Selma Hayek, Femke Janssen. I think if I may be butchering her name, but she also played Jean Grey in the X Men movies. Um, it has got what is the guy's name from the Daily Show? John. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Why can't I think of it? Anyway, the guy that was the host of the Daily Show, his name was John something. He's in it. Clay Duvall. Just a ton. I mean, and also it's directed by Robert Rodriguez and was written by Kevin Williamson. And Kevin Williamson, who was like also famous for writing a lot of other like teen horror and sci-fi movies in the '90s. Like he worked on the Scream movies. He worked on I Know What You Did Last Summer. In like 2004, he worked on the Christina Ricci werewolf movie Cursed. Um, but out of everything he's worked on, while I am a huge Scream fan of the original Scream, The Faculty is probably my favorite thing that Kevin Williamson's ever written, and I can say the same about Robert Rodriguez too. I'm a big Robert Rodriguez fan. I love From Dusk Till Dawn. I love Desperado and Once Upon a Time in Mexico, and even the Planet Terror. I love his stuff, but The Faculty is definitely my favorite because I think a lot of it has to do is because I was born in the '80s, but I really grew up experiencing the '90s, and that's where I kind of formed a lot of my interests was in the '90s. Um, so in a way, I was already a big horror and sci-fi fan when the movie came out, but I just kind of identified it because the main characters were younger and they were in high school, which I wasn't in high school yet when I watched it, but they were close to the age I was, and I've always been that way too about any movie that I grew up watching where there were like kids or teenagers or something in the movie, and I would just kind of try to connect with those characters or like them. That's why I'm a huge fan of the Goonies or Monster Squad and stuff like that. Stand by Me. Um, but I was also a big Elijah Wood fan too, because I loved The Good Son growing up with him and Macaulay Culkin, and he was also like in The War and Radio Flyer and Forever Young, that movie with Mel Gibson. Um, but yeah, so and he's pretty much the main. I mean, there's several. You could argue that there's several main characters in The Faculty, but the character of Casey, played by Elijah Wood, is definitely, I think, the main character, especially if you know how the movie ends. And I'm not going to give it away because, like, I feel like The Faculty is super underrated, and there may be a lot of people out there that's watching this that have never seen The Faculty, but I absolutely highly recommend it if you're into '90s movies or you're into horror and sci-fi or like teen horror, like where it's related to like the main characters are in high school. If you like that kind of thing, coming of age type stuff, with sci-fi and horror mixed in, highly recommend it. But going back to the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, so it is actually referenced in The Faculty. There's a scene between Elijah Wood and Clay Duvall where they're in this library. They're talking about all this strange stuff going on at school. They feel like that the school is being taken over by aliens. So Elijah Wood's character Casey goes to Stokely, who's like like I said, she's like the weirdo chick in school who loves horror and sci-fi and stuff. So he doesn't know anything about Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and so she basically just kind of tells him what it's about. And I feel like that's the ultimate connection between Invasion of the Body Snatchers and The Faculty, because the movie is explained in another movie, and a lot of the similar things are happening. And it does have one of those like formulas of a movie where it's kind of predictable, and you can kind of guess like who's behind, who's the main boss of these aliens, who's behind us all. Um, but you can't look at stuff like that. Like I can't stand it when people are like, "Oh, that movie's so predictable. I knew what was going to happen from the very first 10 minutes of the movie." Still enjoy the movie, man. Have fun with it. Even if it is predictable to you, still watch the movie and have fun with it. And it's a movie, even though I know what's going to happen from the very beginning at this point, I've watched this movie countless amount of times, and it never gets old to me. I'll always love it. And like Zeke says in the movie, which is Josh Hartnett's character, it's guaranteed to jack you up. So that's The Faculty. Let me go ahead and back before I end this video. Let's talk some more and see what's going on in the chat. Um, see. Have you seen The Boneyard with Phyllis Diller and Norman Fell, Mr. Roper? No, I've not, but that sounds like an interesting cast. I definitely should check that out. The Boneyard. Okay, I'll write that one down. Thanks for that, Russell. Elijah Wood's in a zombie kids film, Cooties. Oh, yeah. Okay, just stick around throughout the year, man, and I'm that's one I'm covering. I'm doing a zombie week later this year. So, and Cooties is one of the films that I got ready for that. So yeah, that's a great movie. It's also got Rainn Wilson, who played Dwight in The Office, one of my all-time favorite TV shows. He's in that as well. Love Society with Billy Warlock. Society is an acquired taste. There's people that either love it or they hate it. I'm kind of in between. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. I've seen it several times. It's super weird, but that's kind of up my alley, to be honest. Um, let's see, Resurrection County, about a hillbilly clan where one of their kin was killed by a couple of kids. Man, you're just giving me some recommendations left and right, Russell, and I highly appreciate it, man. Cause yeah, I'm definitely gonna check a lot of this stuff out you've been talking about tonight. Um, and Dennis Hopper has a small role in the film Hoboken. I haven't seen that one either. Um, man, if I already didn't, I mean, I'll eventually watch these movies at some point, Russell. But I've got a lot of stuff planned for this year. I don't know if I can add these in. I might be able to find a spot here or there for to throw them in there. I guess we'll see. But guys, it is 11:31 p.m. Eastern time. I do have work tomorrow, but I just want to say thank you to everybody who joined me this week of like sitting kind of just bullshit with you guys instead of just having to stress out if about pre-recorded videos that I did a week ago. But I had a lot of fun tonight, guys, and I really felt more myself because like looking at the video I did last week that was pre-recorded, I felt like when I watched it back, I was like, man, that just sounds like so rehearsed and it kind of was. I'm not gonna lie to you because I redid those videos of each movie I talked about last week over and over so many times because I just couldn't be satisfied with the final product of the videos I was doing. Because I'm my own worst critic when it comes to stuff like that. But tonight is a very different feeling. Doing this as a live stream, and I think I'm definitely going to continue this because this is super fun talking with you guys. As I'm talking about these movies that I've watched over the past week. So yeah, again, thank you guys. If you like the video, if you don't care, subscribe if you haven't already. You know, share my channel to other people that you may know. That if you think you know someone that may like talking about this kind of stuff, or just kind of like join in on the chat, and we can just kind of like give me ideas. Because I mean, I that's why I've enjoyed this so much because you guys are like talking about stuff, and it's popping stuff in my head left and right. Like, oh, that's yeah, I can talk about that too. That's something I love as well. But yeah, I'm gonna keep doing this. These streams will be every Sunday because I'm gonna watch all the movies throughout the week that I'm watching that week, and then I'll talk about them all like how I did tonight. So that's pretty much the format. Um, and again, I can't thank you guys enough. I mean, this is something I've wanted to do for a very long time. I've just always been procrastinating it, and I am, like I said, my own worst critic. I get super nervous, and but that feeling's gone now. I mean, like I'm so comfortable with doing this. I had so much fun tonight. I can't wait to do this next week, and I hope you guys are here to join me again next week. And till then, CraterMania is running wild. I love you guys. Have a good night.